when you're a single parent, there's the no one else is there. Like no one else is there. So all the things that you used to at least share in terms of whether it's getting the kids to school or, picking this up or go run this over to my mom or the garbage needs taken out or all the things that we know start to compile and they can compile really quickly.
But what happens next isn't what you expect. For a long time, it felt like everything depended on you. The kids, the money, the decisions, every single thing. So you try to hold it all together. You pushed through, you stayed strong, but instead of feeling in control, it just felt heavier. Like no matter how much you did, it was never done. And the hardest part is no one really sees that weight until one moment when you realize this isn't about survival anymore. Something in you starting to change. Stay with me.
Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible.
Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today we have a special guest, Deb Drummond. Deb, welcome to the show. I'm really looking forward to exploring your experiences as a single parent and the lessons that came from that season. So welcome. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. We've been doing some great hanging out lately, and I'm loving it.
Me too. Awesome. You've done, before the world saw you as a global entrepreneur and leader, you were navigating life as a single parent. Can you take us back to that season and share how you became a single parent and what that time was really like for you?
Well, single parenting is interesting. I think single parenting is kind of like entrepreneuring. Like you do the best that you can at the time of the time with the resources that you have. And I've had two children, 10 years apart, so very different places in their life, which meant, is a lot of really navigating. My daughter, when she was, about 3.5 years old, I became a single parent. I was already an entrepreneur by then. And so it looked like it was going to be easy. It was amicable until it really wasn't. Until it really wasn't. So that separation went into a really funky place that was not comfortable, I think, for anybody. And it took longer. It was a very emotional time for sure. It was de-stressing. And so I was a single parent for a very long time. And then I'd never been married before. And then I got married and I was with my son's father for 17 years. And so that was very interesting because I went into that marriage as a single parent. And so then there was this, kind of nuclear family. And then that ended. And then that ended for reasons that weren't amicable and fun. So it was not fun from the get-go. I mean, I think divorce and the stretch of the experience, for most people that I've talked to, it's had its different, weight, I'll say. But being an entrepreneur and having children that, particularly when things separated with my son's father, there was just a lot of trauma involved. My daughter was old enough to know things, and so it was very difficult to navigate everyone's emotions, my emotions. I had 18 staff. So thank goodness I have, some CEO strategies. I really had to pull on some strategies of, high pressure, high intense times to encapsulate my stuff over here and really be able to give to my work, give to my clients, give to my staff, and give to my children. So it's interesting because there's some people that believe, and for them it's like, um if I had a chance to go back in time, I'd never change anything. I'm not one of those people. I think that, people are like, oh, if you didn't marry that person, you wouldn't have your son. And I go, yeah, he would have channeled through another way. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that might sound harsh, but I just believe that, you can't go back with the wisdom that you have. That's one. And two, you can't, you can't go back, but I think I would make some different choices. I'd listen to my gut a little earlier. I would watch different flags, as they arose. I would have matured and navigated differently. But I really truly believe with the dynamics of everything that went on, that we did pretty good. We came through. I have two really good humans as kids. I had to double down in areas. Entrepreneurship served me because I could take time off if I wanted. I could, if that meant working late at night, but I wanted to be there for my kid or wanted to create more stability around, dinner time or whatever I felt was needed. I had the ultimate power to say yes or no. And as tough as that was, because it made me feel like I was working all the time and navigating all the time, I still had the choice to do that. And I think that was a huge asset. Yeah.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Single parenting often forces us to grow faster than we feel ready for. What were some of the biggest emotional or practical challenges you faced while raising your children on your own?
Yeah. I think that depended on where I was at in my life, but for sure, financial gets, that gets funky. And it wasn't that I was financially supported in my relationships. That was one of the reasons why the relationship came to a close, was because of the financial pressure, which felt a lot solo. I felt that solo. But there is something, when you're a single parent, there's the no one else is there. Like no one else is there. So all the things that you used to at least share in terms of whether it's getting the kids to school or, picking this up or go run this over to my mom or the garbage needs taken out or all the things that we know start to compile and they can compile really quickly. And I think the emotional piece for me was just feeling like it was never done. Now, that is the life of a parent and that is the life of an entrepreneur as well. But it felt like things just kept getting backed up. And I remember I got some really great advice early on from someone that had gone through it before me, particularly the separation from my ex-husband, because there was a marriage and there was, two kids, and it was just so much more of a bigger infrastructure, I guess, from a family standpoint. And our families were really integrated together, and so I remember him saying when that first started to happen, he said, Sundays are the hardest. Just know that Sunday, if you don't feel your best. And it was really interesting because when he said that, I think just from, anyways, the culture that I was raised in, Sunday was naturally a family day. Whether we did a family day or not did a family day, like officially, there was just something about Sunday that felt very nuclear from that family. And the other thing he said, he goes, don't forget that neuronally, and we love the neurons in the brain, right? But and this was information back then, and you got to think, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, something like that. He goes, neuronally, for every year you're married, it's going to take 2 months of adjustment. So when you look at you're with somebody for, just say 5 years, that's 10 months of neuronally just getting used to them not booking the airplane tickets. Like last night, I was booking airline tickets at midnight. If I was in a relationship, I could say, can you please just book the tickets? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of demands and stress, I think, of little things that compounded. I always say, I think I said the same thing to you before. People will ask me, how do you do it? And they ask me how I do it in terms of my business predominantly. They forget that I still have, for one, I have a son who's a new entrepreneur, and I spend more time with him than most people spend with their 22-year-old building a company. It's a lot of conversation. But I just think that there's just certain skills that have been able to make it easier for me. And one of those was definitely, I'll say, how I made a successful business was coaches, experts, counselors, and therapists. I leaned really heavy into counseling. Even if you can't afford it, now you can go do all sorts of things in terms of counseling. But yeah, I really needed someone else's outside opinion to help me.
If you're listening right now and part of this feels a little too familiar, that place where you're holding everything together but inside you're exhausted, I want you to know you are not alone in this. And if you are trying to find your way back to yourself, I wrote something for you. It's called The Gift Inside. It's not about fixing your life overnight. It's about gently reconnecting with who you are underneath everything you've been carrying. You can find it in the show notes, and when you're ready, just take one small step back to yourself.
To help me walk through this, even spiritually, to get through the feelings, right? I wasn't his number one fan, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and you're so right. The support is important, and when you're a
Yeah.
single parent, you become kind of on your own, and you got to manage financial, emotional, mental, spiritual. You're a driver, you're a cook, you're a counselor.
Hmm.
You wear so many hats, and
Yeah.
then you're also an entrepreneur. So it's a lot to juggle. And when you're on your own, like you said, you got a
Hmm.
neurology.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
a
the neuronal experience. We could probably
you
write a
got.
book on that, arena, the neuronal experience of uncoupling. I'm sure there's a book out there somewhere. If not, there's going to be one now. Oh my word. Right? I mean, and then you know what? Just like what we're doing right now, sometimes you just got to laugh. Like, you just have to laugh. And I had a girlfriend. Well, I still have a girlfriend, and it's the same girlfriend. And she, ironically, it was the strangest thing. So I mean, I met her. I was teaching at that time. I was in holistic medicine, and I was teaching at a school that she was taking a massage class. And so we became friends when I was pregnant with my son. And we hung out and massaged, did massage swap and all that kind of stuff, like weekly, bi-weekly. And ironically, we were both married. We were both had one son with our, husbands. We separated within months of each other, and not because and divorced within weeks of each other. We both even continued to go date somebody that was a Gemini. I mean, it was just really bizarre. But I used to just call and go and just, we had permission with each other just to vent, like just to vent. And I could, God bless the people that listen to you say the same thing for 10 years. Do you know what I mean? Like she would say the same thing. I would say the same, okay, I gotta go. Okay, gotta go. And it was just like cheap therapy, like you don't want to book in for that stuff because by the time you get to your therapist, you've already figured out your solution. But journaling was a savior for me. Cooking, when I came into my new home, my kids were thrilled because I can chef, and so I was cooking and I felt like I got myself back. I think about, yeah, I just really, and I focused and doubled down on what was important, and that was keeping the lights on, keeping food on the table, and keeping my kids at the least traumatized as possible.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
You've helped tens of thousands of people step into confidence and performance. How did single parenthood shape the woman, leader, and mother you eventually became?
Oh, wow. How did single parenting shape me? I think for me, because there was, multiple responsibilities. As for many people that become single parents, your role just doubled. For lack of a better word, I really believe the resilience, because I was talking about I was talking about that to someone yesterday, right? They're like, well, I don't know. I said, it's really interesting because she's like, I don't believe in the hustle culture. And I said, well, I think the word of hustle has gotten really a bad rap. I said, because I don't know anyone who's made it to the levels that people are talking about without some drive and overtime. You know what I mean? Like you can't flow there. I mean, you can flow and you can be open, but time comes, there's things that you got to sacrifice to get there. I said, so I think we need to be a little careful because we're now in this culture of like, oh, these kids think that they can have everything they want. And I'm like, well, you're telling them they can build a $1 million organization with no hustle or no drive or no fatigue. It's not true. Like it's just not true. And I think it's the same thing of single parenting. It's like, you know what? To lie to someone and say that this is going to be the smoothest road, no, but it's going to build resilient muscles that maybe you never thought. You're going to find yourself because there's something about have to that builds character. And from someone who, like, my first one of my businesses that I had the highest, one of the highest, the one that people know the accolades, like when I was in Success Magazine a whole lot of times. Well, I had taken on the role of leading, of building a sales team for a company in my country and multiple countries. And I was not in a position, I actually was coming out of this marriage. I was what I call nicely changing my marital status. And it was brutal, right? It was, that divorce was full of lots of surprises. There was lots of things that I wish I didn't know to this day. It was not fun. It created anxiety. I'd never had anxiety before. It created so much anxiety. I could not leave my house for 4 months, and I had to let my ex-husband move back in just to help me get to the grocery stores and all that, because the information overloaded my nervous system. And I just thought, where was I living in, balloon land? But sometimes you don't know because you don't know. I was taking care of, my son was a very, very high needs child that didn't talk till he was 3, and didn't take a bottle, and didn't take a soother, and didn't take a cup, and didn't, nursed for a very long time. And so I was in just high needs mom mode. And so I think when it came down, and then when that separated, I had some financial surprises as well. So we were starting from ground zero, and I remember this business opportunity coming up, and I was no, 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 no. 6 times they asked me. I'm like, I'm not sure what part of no you're not getting. You can flip the letters around if you want. No on, right? And then my daughter tried the product and came in the kitchen 5 days later and said, please, let's do this business together. And I was like, because it was distributing a product, and I'm like, no. She said, she's like, I'll do it with you. She was 19, like, I'll do it with you, blah, blah. I'm like, I literally called Visa, because there was a buy-in to this company. I literally called Visa, and they're like, oh, you're entitled. And who knew? You're entitled to an extension of your credit today. And I was like, are you sure you're talking to the right person? I'm pretty sure that, whole thing, it got destroyed. And it was enough to enter into this company, and I did. And within 60 days, because I had my back against the wall. It wasn't about being tired. It was about surviving, right? And within 60 days, we were the number one in our company, in our country, and I continued to be number one in 10 countries out of 200,000 people. It was because my back was against the wall. I mean, I'm not going to say it was only because of that. I think I had some skills, but it was resilience. Is, when you got to do it, you got to do it. And I always say, and you're an entrepreneur. We always hear, like, what's your why? What's your why? Because you need to know. Well, I knew what my why was. It was pretty freaking clear. I had 2 kids to take care of. That's it, baby. And they're the most important things. So that pulls pieces out of your body and your soul when you are determined to make things right. And even when you start to find yourself, like, I remember last night I did it. I bought myself flowers, right? And I put them, and I got these whole fashion magazines, I love fashion, on my table, and I made a little thing. And I was like, man, that feels good. Like, that's a part of who I am. And when I started to get myself back, and little pieces of my personality came back, it was enough to keep me fueled, even if things didn't look good or feel good, right? Yeah.
Totally, totally. You're so right that pieces of ourselves come back, because now our focus is different, and we gotta, like you said, your back is against the wall on one hand, but on another hand, I don't know. For myself, I was at a loss. I had a loss of identity after my divorce, separation. I didn't know who I
Mhm.
was, and kind of went on to the journey to rediscover different pieces of myself. And
Mhm.
here we are having conversation on a podcast that I didn't know anything about podcasting.
Exactly, right? It was like the life of the unforeseen, I call it.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
For single parents listening who feel overwhelmed, stretched thin, or unsure they can still build a meaningful life, what message of hope would you want to leave them with today?
Well, I think if you can, first of all, one of the biggest things that helped me was when my friend acknowledged for me that what I was experiencing was not only because, people are like, oh, it's normal, you'll feel better. But for me, knowing that it was a biological science thing that was going on in my body, that if I felt tired, it was because my body neuronally and my organs and my environment was trying to adapt. And, it's funny because it's like when people are pregnant and they're fatigued, they don't question it. They're like, well, I'm building a new baby in my body. You know what I mean? But you're building a new life. you're grieving in one moment, you're sucking up your grief, and you're going into the office the next moment. Your body is going to feel different. It might feel fatiguing. It might feel like this will never end. But you know, because you are where you are now, that and you can go back in time and look at your life, you you will inevitably, even if you just stand still, you'll change. And so I think that grasping onto the small pieces that feel good and just savoring them. So if you wake up one morning and for some reason you're like, I feel really good today, own it. Like actually stop and acknowledge it and go, wow, I really look forward to my future feeling like this every day. Right. And so I think it's when you get those small moments or you go for a coffee by yourself and you're sitting in Starbucks or whatever and you're reading a book and you're like savoring those moments. I think that it's really cool to know that you will have those back to back to back, and there won't be moments that you feel good. There'll be weeks that you feel good. Here's an example. So I live in a condominium and we have a concierge here. And so obviously I'm really good friends with my concierge and he's on my Facebook. So he sees my whole life, right? And I've been here for like 13, 14 years or something. And so he sees my whole life and he said to me, so now you know my son is building a business. It doesn't allow me a lot of time off as the world would know it, but I also don't let the world know everything that I do. But anyways, so and he's great. We have a great relationship. We have the same birthday. So I come walking up and I'm like, hey, we have this conversation. He goes, do you know what I wish for you? I go, no, what do you wish for me? I go, because I've been waiting for the lottery. And he knows that. Every time he's like, there's a package, I go, is it an envelope? Like from, the lottery that I bought tickets. And he goes, I wish for you just 2 weeks off, like total rest, total this, because he's seeing this life that I'm having. I'm in media and there's TV and there's this and there's that. And he goes, like you never get any time off. And I looked at him, I go, do I look unhappy? He goes, no. I go, I'm pretty freaking happy. Like I get to have the life. And I would say to anyone that's going through a place that feels like your prefrontal cortex can't think and you're tired and you forget names and you forget phone numbers and you don't know where your keys are and you go and realize when you get home there's nothing in the fridge, you forgot to buy stuff and all those things that are probably going to happen and you're like, damn, I need gas again. Why didn't I not realize it? Just realize that your body is in survival mode and that's going to come and go. I mean, divorce isn't a 60-day thing, which, that would have been all nice, right? But it has its way. And then if you have children with this person, then there's other things. But eventually you'll get yourself back. Eventually those things won't override you and come up with little solutions. So little solutions are savoring the moments. What I did and what I do, Arena, I live a pretty, I lead a pretty fast paced life. I double my nutraceuticals. Like I take care of myself in relationship to how much stress I put my body under. I match it. And I'm not going to say the word self-care because people think about a spa. I'm talking about if I go to acupuncture, I go to acupuncture. It's non-negotiable. You have to have some non-negotiables. My non-negotiable is no matter where we're at, no matter what financial bleep we come out of, because we've had some, is that I always take these certain nutraceuticals. They're high, they're quality, they cost money. I don't care. I'll have the same couch for 15 years and I will nutraceutically take care of myself. What is it that you're going to take that is not self care, but high care? Like high volume vibe, I don't care what you want to call it, is that you need to up your self nutrition. Like go ahead, buy the organic broccoli. It's only going to be $2 more. You're okay. Like, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you take care of like you physically because you're up against it, right? And so if you start to do that, you'll feel a lot better.
Totally. I love that. And I think it's important because nobody's coming to save you. You got to save yourself and you got to charge up those batteries. Just like
Mhm.
a phone wouldn't work if you don't plug it in every night to
Yeah,
renew.
absolutely.
We got to do the
Absolutely.
same thing for ourselves.
Yeah.
Was there any book that inspired your journey as you were navigating this life of single parenting?
You know what? It's probably why I've created so many journals, journaling. So I didn't read, right? I wrote. And for me, the external voices that I listened to was music. Music saved, I mean, I think music saved my soul. Music was the least expensive therapist I've ever had in my life. And so even this morning, I was listening to some really, really cool bluegrass music and some country music, and then one that was a little, it was a little hardcore. It was a little going for it. And so I would listen to music and write my feelings. For me, that's what worked. Mhm.
Awesome. No, you're right. It's an amazing release mechanism because oftentimes we
Mhm.
stay stuck in our thoughts, and journaling is one of the ways how we can get it out of our system.
Yeah.
If you're feeling angry, go play some tennis. You can get it out of your system. And for sad and other feelings, journaling is like, amazing, and it also allows you to put things out on paper and see how you're feeling, not just
Yeah.
hold it inside.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
Well, I think what I'd like to share is that as someone who, um, I wasn't married to my daughter's father, and we had, an uncoupling, I'd say that, was tough for the most part, but we can stand in the same room, and same as my daughter's father. What I learned is that the things that I didn't like about who they were when we ended, that was affecting the decision that I made, they're still the same people. And so I always say, God bless the consistent ones. What needed to change for me and what changed was I felt like I got my life back and I got freedom and I was able to create. I mean, look at what we've created over here. It's really been very, very cool. So I was able to really create something that was super special to myself. And the relationships that I have with my children are incredible. So, yes, did my daughter go through her teenage years? Yes, but I have two really good humans that came through it really, really as well as one could, as well as one could. And I remember saying to my son once, because we recognize what these things can do. I mean, right? And so I just said, "Hey, I really want to apologize to you for the fact that me and your dad got divorced." And he's like, "Well, okay." And I said, "No, you know what I want to apologize for is that you have had to adapt and go through things that were traumatic, but really." None of that was about you. Like, none of that was your fault. You just happened to be a victim of a divorce. And victim is a strong word, maybe, to use for some people. But, that situation therefore forced a new situation for the children. And so I just said, I'm not apologizing for his actions, my this, my that. I'm apologizing for the fact as the result of a decision that might have been good for us, it really wasn't good for you. And I think it was those kind of things that helped them adapt to the way that they are. And I remember, I got a card from my daughter, who now has two children of her own, and maybe that prompted it. I'm pretty sure it did. She sent it. She goes, I just want to send you, she goes, I just want to let you, sent me a card. She goes, I just want to let you know, thank you for always being there. And I think for me, that was probably the biggest reward, was because it was super tiring and it was super exhausting and it financially stressed us. And there's times where I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was working double shift, you know what I mean? And and I was pouring it all into other people. And to know that at least it did what I was hoping it would do, which was help to repair the emotional being that was going through this. And by being there consistently, whatever that looked like, for me, that was the important piece. May not be what your listeners are listening to, but there was one thing that was important, was that they came out of it as unscathed as possible. And so that made me really feel like it was worth all the tireless nights, because if you're a parent, you know that you almost want your kids to have kids. You're like, oh yeah, have a whole bunch of them. You know what I mean? But yeah. So, yeah, I guess I just want to say that my kids came out really good humans. My daughter's in a really good marriage. I am happy. I have choices. I've built beautiful companies. Um, I don't, I'm not in a place where I'm wondering. I'm not in a relationship where I'm wondering, do I stay? Do I go? Right? I survived. We survived. We have a good life. We rebuilt ourselves financially. Like we rebuilt ourselves financially. It didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of work to do it, but yeah. So that's a bit of a soapbox speech, but it truly can be different and will be different. It's just going to feel like crap for a while.
Totally, totally. But the important thing is that you always kind of put one foot in front of the other and kept going for the
Yeah.
next thing
Yeah.
until you gotten yourself to where you feel successful with how your life turned out. You were able
Yeah.
to rebuild yourself from inside out, and your kids are in great places and they
Yeah.
feel unscathed. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you. If people would like to learn more about you, where would they go?
Well, if they go to debdrummond.com, just like my name, I'm happy to have a conversation. I happened to, when the major divorce happened, I owned a private holistic health studio, full of intuitives and healers. And I got to tell you, it was very helpful, very helpful. But I'm happy to have a conversation if anyone wants to have a conversation. Or what is it like to build a successful business when you're single parenting? Some of the tips and, like, I'll say one before I leave, just to give an idea of something and this is something that I did. Okay, I'm thinking. So Ocean is 22. He probably was maybe 8 when I did this or started this. So again, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but I had someone that helped me out in my business. She was my assistant. And so I said to her, "Do you want to make some extra money?" And she said, "Sure." Because, now I'm sharing the time with my kid. And so when I have my kid, I'm taking him to the grocery store. That's not a whole lot of fun. So I said, "Do you go grocery shopping for yourself?" And she said, "Of course I go grocery shopping." And I said, "I'll pay you to do my grocery shopping at the same time and come home and put it in my fridge." Now, for her, she was double dipping. She was grocery shopping for herself and getting paid to grocery shop for me. But that $60 that I spent, I got to spend a night with my kid. We went to the park. We didn't go spend out money that night because money was tight. But doing things like that, which felt, my friends were like, "What are you doing? You have someone doing your grocery shopping for you?" You got to think, he was 8, and now, so that was 14 years ago. And people didn't do that. I certainly didn't do that. That was not the world I came from. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And I go, "It's called freedom." Like, that is my self-care, if you want to call it. That's the decision that I make. I'm no longer having to worry about that. Now people can order their groceries, right? But it's those kind of things that you don't think you can do, you have to do. You have to do it. And that was from a business standpoint, an entrepreneurial single mom standpoint, there's decisions like that you have to do. And I promise you, it'll work out. The money will be there. And if you start taking those kind of risks, you're going to be where the flights that I was purchasing last night was first class for me and my son. And that's not where we came from. And that's not how, and it took a while to build it. But I hung up the phone last night and I was like, good job, Deb. Good for you. So, anyways, I went on a bit of a rant, but debdrummond.com. If you're in business, you'll see some cool stuff. And if you want to play in business, cool. If you are just a parent, single parent, or you're a momager like me, where you've got kids that are in business and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this?" There's a whole crew of us that get together and we support each other that are in business, that have kids that want serious businesses. And so my contact information is there. I'm super easy to find.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It was a pleasure to have you and always love talking with you.
You too. You too. I can't wait till the next time. There'll definitely be a next time. All right. Well, thank you so much. And this is such a beautiful thing that you're doing for people, because it's these things that just people can listen to. Like these resources are like the difference between happy and not happy some days, for sure. So thank you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on where you are right now and how far you've already come. Rebuilding isn't easy, but it is possible. And you don't have to do it perfectly, just consistently. If you found value in this episode, share it with someone who might need to hear this today. And be sure to leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts.